Welcome, everyone. Welcome to May 1st, Thursday. A lot has happened this week. So we're going to talk very fast and hopefully we'll cover everything because a lot has happened this week, starting with a very sad event that we will cover in a second. Yes, GPT-4 has been officially RIP'd. Rest in prompted, and we're going to cover this, and we're going to have a moment of wake for GPT-4 because, well, folks, many of folks who follow us for the past 2 years know, many don't know that GPT-4 was the start of Thursday. We were born on the same day. It was May 14th, 2023, and that's when Thursday started. And so we're going to have a little wake for GPT-4 and say some words and invite some people to write some words as well in the comments as well. With you, Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with Weights and Biases. I've been doing Thursday for more than 2 years. With me, our co-host, Wolfram Ravenwolf, all the way from Germany. Hey, Wolfram.
Hello, everyone.
Yam Peleg is with us. Hey, Yam. And Nistan Tahira. So we're an international crew here. Yam is in Israel, Nistan is in Canada, Wolfram is in Germany, and I'm in the not so cold anymore Colorado in Denver. And we also have an international crew of folks joining us from all over the world. We're streaming live on YouTube, on X, on LinkedIn. There's a few folks on LinkedIn. And I think for the first time, we're streaming live to the Weights and Biases audience on LinkedIn. Hey, Weights and Biases audience, if you're seeing this, this may be your first time with us, so welcome. All right, folks, I think it's time for us to get started with the TLDR. First of all, I think we'll do the wake afterwards. So folks who are joining for the GPT-4 wake, I think we'll wait a little bit. But this week has been a crazy week, and I think we did something last time, although we don't have that much time today. I'll be very punctual with the clock. We have a lot to cover. We may have Jun Yang join us from Qwen, which I believe was the biggest open source of this week. Last time I went around to just ask my co-hosts, what do you guys think was what was the one highlight of AI for you guys? And while my co-hosts answer this, I invite everybody in the audience also to comment and tell us what was the one thing. Maybe we missed it. Maybe it was a huge thing. So how about we start with Wolfram? What was the highlight of your week this week?
Definitely Qwen 3, because this model, it does it all. It's a big size, small size, everywhere. It is an amazing model. We will talk about it in more detail. I'm running my benchmarks, and I'm loving it. Great work.
Qwen
that was
3,
the most exciting
absolutely.
for
me. Let's go to Yam. Yam, what was your highlight this week?
Oh, definitely Qwen 3. Definitely. Absolutely amazing model. These numbers are unheard of. I mean, you can argue if they translate well to vibes and so on, but numbers themselves are unheard of for these sizes. And it's just amazing to see, like, every new release, a smaller model gets to the same performance as the largest models. And you think, okay, that's the end. We're not gonna get like a 7B better now this time. And then a new team just pops up out of nowhere and just put it on Twitter, have fun and enjoy. And it's like every single time, like every month, something like this happen, and really makes you think like when what's the limit of those models, of the small models? Like when, how far can we push them? And it's also really hard to even measure the limit, even measure how hard it is. Like it's all vibes from here all the way down at this moment. So yeah. But yeah, definitely Qwen 3. Yeah.
All vibes. Absolutely, I agree with you. Qwen 3 for us as well. Nistan, how about you give us something that's not Qwen 3, if you have? If not, it's also fine. If all of us are excited about Qwen 3, that's great.
Well, the new VLLM release, they fixed a lot of the CPU offloading, so which makes it very good for running Qwen 3.
Yeah, it's also Qwen 3 related to an extent.
I like, so besides Qwen 3, by the way, my most used model has been Qwen Coder 32B until now, so I'm glad to have something else. But this one just flew under the radar. It's the new Ulma model 1B, and that beats the older Qwen 2.5, 1.5B, so Ulma 2.
Yeah.
So that's a very nice, very small model, and it's one of the only ones where you have complete access to all the data too, and the training logs. So that's from our friends at Allen. And yeah, I would say that is something that flew under the radar. And there is also another voice thing, which I'm just looking up because I don't remember. So I'm gonna try.
All right. I will say the highlights are usually like good things, but also I want to add like notable things. I think for me, notable is GPT4 is no longer with us. And as I said, we're going to have a wake in a bit, but I think it's time to jump to the TLDR section because, as always, we have a lot to run through. And for folks who are busy, we're doing the TLDR, which is where you can see everything we're going to talk about and everything with the links. We're going to run through it super quick this time, and then hopefully we'll jump into open source. Let's do TLDR. No, not this one. Sorry. One of these days. Alrighty, folks, we are in the TLDR section. A lot has happened this week. A lot. I have like a very long list of things that happened this week, starting with open source LLMs. As we all mentioned, Alibaba drops Qwen 3, which is just a huge release. Like models across the board. There's like 2 huge MOEs, mixture of experts. I believe first ones from Qwen. Folks will correct me afterwards. And then also 6 dense models, starting with a very tiny 0.6 billion, 600 million parameters Qwen. It's useful for some things. It's surprisingly not completely babbling, all the way up to 30 billion parameters. The stats are incredible. We're going to hopefully have Junyang Lin with us if he's able to join. And if not, we're just going to cover it ourselves. We're now friends of Qwen for the longest time. In a surprising release, yesterday, Microsoft released Phi-4 with reasoning. That was new and exciting. We covered Phi, I believe, from the first one. We covered tiny stories. We covered why the synthetic data is great for models. And now they're releasing a reasoning model as well. And Phi-4 reasoning and Phi-4 reasoning plus, which is super cool. Xiaomi also released a model. It's called Mimo, and also to like surprise, it's also a huge Chinese company, and we should at least mention that they are releasing MIT as well, which is very, very interesting. That most of the Chinese models are coming out with open source. Everybody else over here, and Qt AI, which we remember from the voice models Mochi, they released Helium. 2 billion parameter Helium 1, and we definitely should mention this, 2 billion parameter Helium 1. I believe that's most of the most open source news. There's a few more things in open source. DeepSeek released a prover, like a huge prover that's very interesting for folks for specific math, but not necessarily wide appeal. And there's a few more folks, but because this week was huge, this is like the main thing. GPT-4 is no longer with us. You cannot find it in Dropdown. You cannot use GPT-4. You cannot send inference. Not that you had for the past year and a half, nor did you have a reason to. GPT-4 started a revolution, and we will do a wake immediately after this once we get to the big companies and APIs. Google, you guys remember we had the folks from Google. We had Riza, Abu Bakr, and we had Steve talking to us when Notebook LM launched, way before it became viral. Notebook LM now does the AI overviews, the podcasty overviews of everything that you want in multilingual. It does them, I believe, in like 50 languages, and they sound dope. So that's super cool. Meta had their LlamaCon, a convention specifically dedicated for Llama, where everybody expected a new model. But besides this, they released a bunch of mini kind of tangential security models like Llama Guard. But they also kind of talked about Llama and Llama 4. Kind of coinciding with this, Zuck went on the Dwarkesh podcast and gave some replies on why Llama, started on LLMarena as number 1, and then what we got is not number 1. But yeah, we have some news from LlamaCon, and then some folks in the audience also will give us some news as well. I actually wasn't there. Looking forward for an invite next time to be able to cover LlamaCon. And then also one of the biggest pieces of news for this week was GPT glazing update. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the word glazing. I wasn't until Sam Altman tweeted it out, but basically sycophancy is a thing. It's where the model basically is not able to tell you anything constructive. It also barely tells you anything constructive. It just like agrees with everything you say and highlights everything you say as though you're the king and you pay it. And so for the past 2 weeks, GPT-4 had been many of the community noticed this behavior, including reaching out to the folks in OpenAI and saying, hey, this is just like incredible. I told it I did one push-up, and then it went on how amazing I am, one like top of the population, basically something like this. We'll definitely cover what went wrong there, because it was so bad that OpenAI not only admitted it, OpenAI rolled back a release, which I don't remember for the past 2.5 years doing this. I don't remember them rolling back anything ever. Maybe they did this quietly, but here they also went on an AMA, Junyang, I believe. No, not Junyang, sorry. I'll remember her name. The head of behavior went on an AMA with Reddit to kind of try and address. Joanne Zhang went on an AMA with Reddit, and yeah, we will talk about the behavior change and how it affects half a billion people now. And then next up, we have the other kind of like interesting thing. Chatbot Arena is under fire, folks. Folks from Cohere released a paper called Leaderboard Illusion, where they claim that the way Chatbot Arena is built is actually favoring the bigger labs. And then there's a response from LMArena as well. And then some community members like Maxime Lebon responded back. We're going to chat about this because we've had our qualms with LMArena as well. We love to tell you which model is the best one. This is like part of what we do here on Thursday. Vibes, and then they're supposedly testing Vibes, but it's very interesting. Very interesting that there was this paper, and then we should definitely discuss this. Also in big news, ChatGPT will do shopping for you. This is also a new era. They combine with Shopify. They will now do shopping, and also kind of according to this, I just started realizing how much ChatGPT knows about me, and I don't think there is a service on the internet. Honestly, I don't think that my mom knows as much about me as ChatGPT. This is now a thing which I definitely would like to discuss, though this week is crazy busy, so hopefully we'll get there. In this week's Buzz, a category where I cover things that happened in weights and biases, or around weights and biases, or related to weights and biases, I want to tell you again that we have a hackathon coming up May 17th and 18th in San Francisco. The hackathon is together with Google. I can finally announce this. Google is a sponsor, presenting sponsor for this hackathon. Hackathon is going to be MCP and A2A, the protocols that we both covered them. We covered A2A with Todd Segal from Google, one of the core developers of the protocol, and we covered MCP with Jason Neen and Dina Kozlov, who's in charge in Cloudflare, and we will invite all of the developers from around the world if you want to fly in. I'm not going to pay for your ticket, but if you want to fly in, you're more than welcome. But if you're in San Francisco and the Bay Area, you're more than welcome to join our hackathon. Would love to see you there. The hackathon is called Weave Hacks, and you can look it up on Luma, and we'll definitely add a link to this in the show notes as well. In the vision and video, finally we're getting to where I really want this whole thing to be. Runway added references, and references are also available on the free plan as well. References allow you to generate video character consistently, so character consistent video throughout frames, which looks quite incredible. And this has been the bane of like video generations. You can create incredible scenes, maybe even based on your own video, but then the consistency for the next frame is not there. Runway is trying to solve this, and that's super cool. We definitely should look at that. I believe covered HyDream before, but in AI art and diffusion, there's a new contender in open source. It's called HyDream, and it does Ghibli as well. HyDream E1, and that is an open source model. We should at least mention this as well. And I think that in agent tools and interviews, we will have an interview with the friends of the pod, Hamel, Hussain, and Shreya Shankar, specifically because they also, Shreya released something called Prompt Evos this week. And they also have an upcoming course in which yours truly is a guest speaker. So we'd love to chat with them about evals, everything evals, LLMs, and the upcoming course. And also Prompt Evos, of course, Prompt Evos work. And then also in AI tools, agents, and interviews. I have this like... This is a catch-all category for me. OpenPipe, our friends of the pod as well, released ART-E, which is an open-source RL-trained email research agent that they claim does a better job than O3, which is very interesting. We may invite Kyle at some point to chat about this with us, but absolutely something to talk about as well. I want to see if I missed anything big from folks here on stage. Anything huge that I missed that we should cover? Because this has been a lot.
Not something huge, but since you mentioned the event in the US, there's also an AI developer community event in Berlin in 2 weeks. So I've been to the first 3 times, and now the 4th one is in Berlin. There are still a few slots left. I will drop a link in the comments.
All right, we'll add the link to this in the show notes as well. Folks, I think it's time for us to get started because the show is long. We have a lot to cover. Let's get started with our favorite corner that we love every time, open source AI. Let's go. Open source AI, let's get it started. I love the opening sequence to this because I specifically have their applying Apache 2 license. And speaking of Apache 2, I think the biggest news that we need to cover this week is the release of one of our definitely favorite friend of the pod labs out there, Alibaba. The Qwen team in Alibaba specifically released, bestowed upon us an Apache 2 series of models called Qwen 3. We've been following Qwen for a long time, since Qwen 1, Qwen Coder. There's a bunch of releases, QVQ, QWQ, all of the great stuff. And now Qwen 3 is a full stack of open weighted models, two MOE giants, two mixture of expert giants. One is 235 billion parameters with only 25 billion active parameters. And then the other one is a 30 billion parameter with only 3 billion parameter active. And then 6 dense models ranging from 0.6 billion all the way to 30 billion parameter, all shipped under Apache 2 license with day one support. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they want support for literally everything that can run a Qwen. LM Studio, our friends, Ollama, MLX, VLLM. They also trained them for MCP and mentioned MCP specifically in the release notes. Let's talk about this, folks. I have like a bunch of stuff. I want to highlight this one more thing, then we should absolutely discuss this. They're also hybrid thinking models. They're reasoners. So we had the reasoner before. I believe Qwen was the first open source reasoner with WQ before DeepSeek. And then we could play with this. Back then it was like experimental, whatever. These models are hybrid reasoners, which we talked about on the show. Sam Altman announced that they're going to go to there, and they didn't go there yet. So the OpenAI models are not hybrid. Claude, I believe, to some extent. Gemini Flash 2.5, which was released last week. We should probably also mention this. It was released after a show, literally on Thursday, but after a show. So we'll definitely mention Gemini 2.5. That's a hybrid reasoner as well. You can specify reasoning. This, I believe, is one of the second. NVIDIA Nemotron was also a hybrid reasoner. But this one has a thinking switch that you can enable mid-prompt. Nista, I know you noticed this for sure, and we definitely should talk about this. Like a user can pass, I want you to think more. So that's super cool. Let's talk about the fact that they released both MOEs and non-MOEs. Yam, would you wanna like take this one and discuss kind of the MOE approach versus non-MOE approach and a few of the evals? Then we can chat about evals as well.
Look, there is a lot to discuss. I just want to say that I think that supporting everything since day one is a lesson learned from Llama, probably from the Llama release that had its own issues not long ago. And yeah, I think it was the first thinking model coming from Qwen, first open source. Today we take it for granted, like it's expected. Zach also said on the podcast that Llama 4 is going to get thinking in over this year. Anyway, what I want to say is first, it's important to consider, like, to look at the size of the models and what they compete against. Like you see on the Qwen release, like tiny models that are competing with O1 on several benchmarks. That's incredible. Let alone put aside the MOE, larger models and so on. Even the smaller models are like, how did they pull this off? Like how did they even do this? Seriously, it's like it's seriously like it's the pinnacle of like pushing the model to the extreme. You can invite everyone to just go and read the technical materials about how it was done. Also important to mention, Nissan said it before, Qwen Coder was an unbelievable model. And one of a kind. There wasn't any model of this size with this performance open source. So, a lot to expect. Those things, coding models that you can run yourself locally, even if they're not the state of the art, are like local co-pilots, which is a massive unlock. that you can use yourself. It's just amazing to see, seriously. Anyone wanna take the MOE versus not MOE number of parameters, because there is something about there as well worth mentioning.
Before we get to number of parameters, one thing that you asked that we should also mention, the number of training tokens. We often mention this. It's a massive, if I'm reading this right, 36 trillion tokens, which is insane. Like we've been talking about like the number of tokens growing as well. 36 trillion tokens, twice as much as Qwen 2.5. And they have PDF extraction that they use Qwen 2.5 VL for, synthetic math and code that they generated with Qwen 2.5 math encoder. Like both these great models that we know and love, they did like synthetic training for this new model. It seems that kind of like the loop that we're talking about, that like the previous models will generate synthetic data for newer models become better and include this. It's kind of like what also we're seeing right now with this Qwen model. Yeah, you want to talk about size parameters? We can chat about this as well.
Listen, have you seen this?
Yeah. So it is actually similar to the DeepSeek Coder model. So when Coder V2 came, it was pretty revolutionary. So this, so that was around like 220B or so. So this is around 235B, and with the same number of active parameters. So that was one of the first like very good models that you could run on a CPU as well, because you could do 11 tokens per second. So the sizing on this is roughly similar to that. And I always really liked that architecture, and I don't know why they moved away from that towards something bigger, because it's pretty ideal, for example, if you have a Mac or if you have a CPU, because that's what I like. But also for people serving this stuff in production, because you can parallelize a lot of their requests so much, so it actually ends up being a lot cheaper when you just throw a lot of GPUs at it. Anyway, all of that aside, it is fantastic. So the Qwen models have always been good, like workhorse models, we would call them, since like Qwen 1, the 70B, and they're also very easy to fine tune. This one's getting all the math questions, all like the tricky physics questions that I throw at it. It's getting them perfectly. It can vibe code somewhat. It's still not Sonnet at vibe coding. Nothing beats Sonnet at vibe coding, but it's not like it's that far off.
It's not Sonnet at home yet.
Yeah, I think it is definitely Sonnet 3.5 at home.
Yes.
I tested it with all the tool calls, and it's doing all the tool calls well. Yeah, I have found the coder to be, so I tried the so I tried the 4B. I had early access to the 0.6B, and
oh, look at you, fancy.
Yeah, that was out for a good like 3 weeks on their thing, and never actually. They even had another small MOE, which I don't know if they actually released that one, but that one was scoring a crazy score. So basically, they trained this big model, and then they distilled all the tiny models. So I'm pretty glad that they released all of the work, because you often see with shops that they do train a whole bunch of smaller models and bigger models and stuff, and then they only release the ones that like do well in the benchmarks. They released all of it, and they're all great. So right now, I'm using it with Fireworks API. I was able to run the MOE one myself. And that one ran on a single H200 for $1.50 an hour. It runs at 14 tokens per second, which is okay. It could do better. Yeah, I'm looking at, and then you can also just own the model too, because the license allows you to do that.
Apache too?
Yeah.
All over. I want to add, Yam, to something that you said. The efficiency math here is crazy. The MOE bases, they hit parity with Qwen 2.5. while activating 10% of the parameters. Qwen 2.5, which was released 5 months ago. I like hardly remember. Like we were very celebrating that model. That model is now the base of many fine tunes, many folks running Qwen 2.5 based stuff, and a lot of like the reasoners. If you guys remember when reasoning came out, RL came out, like it was a big thing, and many people trained on GPRO and like all of these things. They used Qwen 2.5 like multi-models. 10% of the active parameter is all it takes now to get to the same level of quality of Qwen 2.5. 235 billion, the MOE, the big one that they released, matches or exceeds DeepSeek R1, and DeepSeek R1 broke the stock market when it came out, because everybody's like, oh my god, like GPT4 at home. It's half the parameters. DeepSeek is 560 something parameters, if I remember correctly, the MOE. This one is like less than half the parameters and matches or exceeds the model that we all thought is the crazy state of the art. Only in like January, like not only us, it broke through the bubble. And matches O1 and O3 mini in multiple things, right? Especially in math things, Grok 3 and Gemini 2.5 on coding and math as well. And the highlight of this, for me, the highlight is the 4 billion parameter dense model beats Qwen 2.5 72B. 4 billion parameter model beats the previous highlight of 72B instruct on like multiple things. It's a 4 billion parameter model. We keep talking about having these models at home for privacy sake, for performance speed, maybe not so much because they run like crazy on VLLM. Definitely for privacy sake, definitely for like doing your own thing, fine tuning, especially 4 billion parameter model gets very, very close there. Let's talk about the reasoning. Wolfram, I would love to chat with you about kind of just your vibes around this model, your vibes from the community, but also like the reasoning stuff. So the fact that these are like hybrid reasoners, would love to kind of open this up because I think it's very important.
Yeah, the reasoning is especially important and interesting because when OpenAI was announcing their open source model, a lot of the people who were there wanted a non-reasoning model. So it's faster and doesn't use so many tokens. So now Qwen has shown us that you can have both. You can have a way to disable the reasoning. So I expect from OpenAI now to match that as well, to give us an MOE model.
You remember
which is
last week we chatted with Maziar, who went to the OpenAI event. And Maziar specifically said that the community reacted to them and said, hey, please give us the way, like the ability to turn off reasoning. He wasn't the only one. And this was the sentiment from the community. So definitely great. Sorry, continue. Yeah. I just wanted to highlight this one.
Now we have seen that it is possible and how easy and well done it can be. So that is a great thing. Also, the MOE approach means we can run it faster because we don't have as many active parameters, which is important when you are reasoning because you are generating so many more tokens. So that is also an aspect that is here. And that is the great thing. We not just got a big model like DeepSeek did, but we also got a smaller one, which we can run locally. I can run it on my MacBook. And it doesn't take much, and it has so many contexts. It is super fast, and the quality is excellent. So what they did is not just deliver an amazing model, but deliver an amazing model everybody can use, depending on your hardware, of course. If you have a supercomputer, you can run the big one. And since we mentioned Sonnet at home, I tested at Fireworks, the Qwen, the big one, the 235B, active 222B, the active one. And it was directly between Claude 3.5 Sonnet and Claude 3.7 Sonnet in the MMLU Pro. But on my own system, I also got a score of 80% in the MMLU Pro. That was just a Q4 4-bit. Of the 30B for active 3-bit. So that was reasoning a lot, and so it got a good score. Yep. And it's running locally. I've never seen such a good score on a local model. That is absolutely what blew me away. Absolutely amazing. They delivered a top model that you can run everywhere on your phone, the small one. It doesn't get a good score. The small one is 0.6B. That only got a score of 30, 40 something. So that wasn't super, but that is to be expected. But the big one, that is great.
We have a shout out from Fernando Neira, a friend of the pod, also an ML researcher, that says, worthy paying attention to the depth of the 30 billion MOE. It's deeper than 8B and 14B as well. All right, let's talk about evals, folks. On artificial analysis, GPK Diamond, Qwen 3, the top one. There's a lot of Qwen 3s, but like the top one, the 234 billion parameter, is landing above Gemini 2.5 Flash, which we also should mention came out since we chatted with you guys last week, and above Llama 4 Maverick. Zuck is in shambles right now. But I think the reaction from Zuck is specifically the Llama is multimodal and these models are not multimodal. So no multimodality, but multilinguality, support for 119 languages in these Qwen models, which is also very, very, very impressive. I chatted with it in Hebrew and in Russian, and it works. It works well. Nistan, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think the star of the show here is the 30B MOE with only 3 billion active parameters.
Yep.
Because people are getting like 100 tokens per second on their MacBooks on this.
Yep.
And you're getting pretty close performance to the big one, but it's just way faster. And again, it's 30 gigs on disk, and you're only using 3 gigs of them at a time in memory, or it's half that if you're running it in 4-bit. And people are getting crazy speeds on that. So that I think that's like the most democratized form of intelligence right now, because in 4-bit you only need 16 gigs, well, more like 20 gigs of VRAM to actually run it. So you can buy a GPU now for less than $1,000 and just have this extremely capable, also extremely fast user experience.
How much memory? How much memory do people use?
You only need 20 gigs.
Really?
So yeah,
for,
it's a 30B.
For what context? Like
for up to
like if you have...
up to 32K or 20K, I think, which is
crazy.
It is
that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Absolutely.
Yeah,
we should mention the context length for these models as well.
So now for like $1,000, you can get this amount of intelligence that is also fast.
Yeah,
it's fast. I cannot. Like
100 tokens per second locally is crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So it's super cheap. Even the big one on Fireworks cost me just 15 cents for the full NLU Pro's computer science benchmark. That is 1 million token. So very cheap.
Look, I didn't have time to test it myself, but like seriously, Sonnet at home, you really feel this way, guys?
I feel that way with the bigger model. The annoying thing is that I started using the bigger one and I really like it. And so now I do notice the difference when I use the small one. You kind of just want to use the best. So if you're going to try any of this, just try the 30B MOE, and don't try the other one, because then you're just always gonna want the other one. But
Sound has a lot of stuff in there that is hard to just like get by just talking. So vibe coding, for example, I've seen a few examples of folks like trying to build like interfaces. Sound just gives like an incredible one where Qwen does something, but it's not comparable. I've seen a few examples. As always with these models, some folks will not like them. I would point out that like there is a few folks who tried and got different results on local Llama. However, like the thing to highlight is all of these models are Apache 2 license. All of them are fine-tunable. The community is going to come out and fine-tune. Already folks started doing this. Their reasoning, so for tasks like math and code, they're great. They're absolutely great. And you can like absolutely like turn off reasoning if you don't want to.
Oh, yeah. So by the way, just to highlight that for the viewers, the turn off reasoning is just /no _ think /no think. That's all you need to do. Oh, and just to address any fights, not fights in the community, but arguments as to who first like invented dynamic reasoning, because I posted that Qwen finally solved it, and technically also the QEQ model has solved it. Technically also the Hermes 3 also included it.
Yep.
Also, technically, the Hermes 405B release had both thinking and reflection tokens that you could turn on and off in the model. So, so that part of the post, don't take that as like absolute what I was saying, but this is I don't know. This is one of the best implementations.
We're very. Somebody commented that no think will turn off thinking, and then /think will turn it on back again. So in the middle of the conversation, you can give your users the ability to turn on and off thinking. I don't remember any other models doing this with this specific thing. That's great. I foresee this coming everywhere.
Have you seen the commands for Claude Code? The secret commands for Claude Code, which is ultra think and mega think.
Mega
And
think.
apparently ultra think is to think more than mega think.
Ultra is
And
more than
there's
mega,
like,
for sure.
yeah. And there's like 5 secret commands that are like ultra think, mega think, and like it was really funny when people found out and like that there are levels for this. But yeah, so
Yep. I'm sure that
anyway.
this will be built in because Gemini 2.5 has a number of tokens you give it, like they literally expose it via the API. We should mention this as well. Last thing that I want to mention here, folks, we've been like hyping up Qwen 3 for a while. They have support for MCP. We mentioned this, by the way. Do you guys remember when we looked at the Qwen interface? There was like an MCP button there. Yam, I think you noticed that it's not live yet. However, the folks in like the folks in China, if you look at Model Scope, which is kind of the Hugging Face for Chinese models as well, they have an MCP registry in the Model Scope thing. Very interestingly, Hugging Face doesn't have one, but Model Scope does not give an F. And there's like a bunch of very specific Chinese MCP servers as well. So like China ecosystem picks up MCP in a big way. And this is a great example because they specifically mentioned that they've trained MCP selection on these models. MCP selection is a little bit different than just tool calling. And these models have like specifically mentioned they have a built-in MCP schema, and you can pair them with their Qwen agent, which they have like a free version on GitHub for like tool calls. And I believe that not a lot of models have been trained for MCP specifically besides Claude and now Qwen. And I think that's
probably
also
not even Claude. Probably,
Claude,
I just want to say,
Claude was yeah.
Okay, go on, you go on.
I believe that I heard from folks that after they they released MCP and started seeing like a big deal, the Claude has some updates. But I may be wrong.
I heard that too.
But but like Claude has some like more of like understanding what MCP would be because they've been working on MCP way before they released it, and then by the time they released it, they wanted like a good experience. I believe 3.7 maybe has a little bit more than 3.5.
I would like to add something.
Yes, please.
Because tool calling is very interesting because the consensus seems to be, and I've noticed the same, that the model, the word knowledge of the model is a bit lower than we would expect, while the intelligence is very high, which is interesting from an agentic perspective, or if you are stressing RAG or tool calling. A lot of my clients have always asked me, how can I make the AI forget a lot of things? It should just answer what we have in the RAG, and we don't want it to talk about world events or stuff. So maybe that has been not a drawback, but actually a feature of this model. When you are using it in such a context, you want the information from the context to be what is that the model interacts with, and not so much background knowledge, which could confuse it. So maybe that is not even a bad thing, but a good thing. And yeah, we have a lot of options for fine-tuning, so stuff can be inserted back in again. And that is a great thing about Qwen, because it is now a base. We will see so many fine-tunes, I'm sure of it. And that is a bit sad that is not happening with Llama, because that is what Meta's role was or used to be, that they released the models in different sizes and everybody could use them and build so many. That's how the whole ecosystem was created. And now Meta passed in the way to the Chinese that are taking over this.
That was a big feedback as well on the Meta Llama 4 release, where like we are used to smaller models that we can run ourselves, fine-tune ourselves, and enjoy them at home. And then what's the point of open sourcing models for the community when you cannot run them? You need to run them in cloud anyway. I wanted to highlight this last thing before we move on, folks. I had a run of evaluating on my machine. This is the first model, I believe, that I like literally used Weave and LM Studio. I don't know why I blanked on this incredible piece of software. LM Studio came out with first day support for Qwen models. Shout out Bartowski and the LM Studio community for like releasing the quantized version. I ran the Qwen 30B with 3 billion parameters locally, and then I ran it through my Weave evaluation dashboard. And you can see here, this is the model. It gets 43% of the 20 super hard thinking questions from AI explained. As you guys know, like the Beth High School question, like there's a bunch of others. We always test thinking models for them. Reasoning models is significantly better. This model, the 30 billion parameter with only 3 billion active, is very close to other models. It's by far the highest one that I ran open source. And on this test specifically, it beats GPT 4.1 mini and 4.1 nano. It gets very close to 4.1. This is a model with 3 billion active parameters that runs at home, and on this reasoning test, it answers way better. Not to mention the long dead GPT4 and like all of these things. The surprising thing though is you can see the average latency graph. It was a long time because it ran on my machine. I ran it in parallel. It took a while for this model, right? But you know, I didn't do the optimizations. One last thing that I will say: if you run LM Studio, which I think I have open, let me see if I have open LM Studio. I'll open it up. If you run this model in LM Studio, you should absolutely know that because of the incredible thing, Llama didn't have this as well, by the way. If you run this model, let's say you load this up, you can use speculative decoding to speed that even more. And we chatted about speculative decoding multiple times at this point, and I just want to show you how that looks in a second.
You can use the smaller models. You
Yep,
can
you
use
can
the
use-
smaller models of Qwen. Oh, I didn't think about it.
So you can use even the 0.6 billion parameters, because all you want from speculative models is the ability to kind of think ahead of the model. So if you are, let me just show you super quick, like, hey, say hi to Thursday Community Live. So I'm showing a screen for folks who are just listening, and I have the Qwen 3 30 billion parameters with the 3 active billion parameters running. And when you run this with speculative decoding, you can see how many of the tokens are green, and the green tokens are coming from the very tiny model. So it's 3 billion parameters anyway, but I just ran this. I just ran this at 57 tokens per second because of speculative decoding.
Breaking news.
Oh, we have
Breaking news.
Wait,
Claude.com. Claude.com released integration for remote MCPs right now.
Ooh, right, let's hit it. Let's hit it. Let's
advanced
go.
version of research, of Claude research, just now, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we have to hit the breaking news button. Hold up. AI breaking news coming at you only on Thursday. Oh, we have breaking news. So, Yam, tell us.
All right. So, coming from Claude, Claude.ai today released integration of remote MCPs and an advanced version of Claude research 5 minutes ago.
That's so cool. So, Claude.ai. So far, Claude only had MCP support in the Claude desktop app and Claude Code. And now you're saying they have released 5 minutes ago, released for remote MCPs. This is huge. This is huge. Let's take a look at this. Anybody want to pull Claude up? Because anybody pay for it? I don't pay for it yet. I should. I know the deep research is great, but I haven't paid for it. But let me see.
I pay for it. I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, so here's the tweet from Anthropic. Today we're announcing integrations, a new way to connect your apps and tools to Claude. We're also expanding Claude's research capabilities with an advanced mode that searches the web, your Google Workspace, and now your integrations too. We chatted about the research stuff, but we haven't seen this yet. Integrations, you can connect Claude to Asana, Intercom, Linear, Zapier, and more. Our developers can create their own tools as little as 30 minutes. That's, I think, their wing to MCP, which they don't mention on the release. But look at the folks that are integration launch partners: Zapier, Stripe, Atlassian, Asana, Linear, Square, GitLab, Cloudflare, PayPal, and more. Claude now automatically determines when to search and how to deeply investigate, which we know that from O3 does as well. Both integrations and research are available today in beta for Max, Team, and Enterprise plans. We'll soon bring both features to the Pro plan as well. Okay, so only for Max and Team plans. Listen, maybe that's.
Oh yeah, I just have the Pro plan.
Yeah,
damn it, they're gonna make me buy the $100 one. All right.
Yeah. So MCP is supported now on the online portal, which is super cool.
That was supported before too, so you could add your
MCP.
Just
I don't
MCP,
believe so.
Just MCP in general.
Yeah, Claude Desktop remote, like Claude Desktop supported MCPs, but only the STDAO.
No, not on the. I don't think Claude. Both desktop didn't support, I think, remote, and the web
desktop
app
didn't
for
support
sure.
remote, and the web app did not support. Yeah, I agree with them. Yeah. All right, folks, this is breaking news from Anthropic. If you have the Max tier and you want to tell us how your experience is with this, please do in comments. We're moving on. We're still in open source. We still have a lot to cover. Let's quickly move on to the next thing that we should mention, Phi-4 with reasoning. This came out literally just
It doesn't
yesterday
end.
evening.
It doesn't end Phi as well, yeah.
Yeah. So Phi-4 came out with reasoning. Microsoft released this in, I also believe, including a tech report as well. I want to see which license they have here. Let's take a look. To the developers, architecture, inputs, context length with 32K tokens. They have. There's no way. Is this it? So, folks who are listening, I'm looking at kind of the table of facts about Phi, and they're saying that the training data for Phi was only 16 billion tokens.
That's for the reasoning. That's the reasoning fine tuning. It's way more than that. It's trillions of tokens to train the whole model.
Yeah,
but to do the reasoning, the reasoning tool that was, I think they said it was from O3 Mini that they generated the 16 billion reasoning chains.
I see. All right.
Yeah, that's the fine tune data set. That's not the full.
Not the full. Okay, because this doesn't make sense. So the dates that they trained this model is from January 2025 to April 2025. So obviously after DeepSeek, everybody started training reasoning as well. The Phi-4 has a model card and basically a technical report as well. They have. Let me just go to my notes super quick. Right here. They took the lightweight 14 billion lightweight. I love that we're calling, like, we just mentioned the Qwen has like 0.6 billion, and now Microsoft is claiming the 14 billion is a small model. Phi was small when it came out. It was like 3 billion parameters. We celebrated this, and then it blew to 14 billion. But they added a 1.4 million teachable chain of thought traces on top, and then added 6K RL math problems as well. And now they have two variants, Phi-4 Reasoning and Phi-4 Reasoning Plus. So Phi-4 Reasoning Plus is a model that was trained to think for longer, just output longer chains of thought. They have, it came out to 70, it beat 70 billion parameter on AI.me. What else is interesting here? MIT license, context window 32K. And then they internally try to get to 64K with rope interpolation. They have structured chain of thought thinking with very, very basic, use GPRO as well. They claim to outperform DeepSeek R1 distilled 70 billion parameters on AI.me, the math competition. They also said that they trained this model before AI.me 25 came out, and they're getting 78%. So basically, saturating AI.me with reasoning is now basically a thing. Basically, the more you reason, the more you get on the AI.me, which it still remains to be seen how much of this transforms into real world use. The interesting thing here, I believe, is generalization. They claim that gains are not limited to math. So they added math problems in reinforcement learning, and they saw 10-point increase on Human Eval Plus coding and 5 points on MMLU Pro versus base Phi-4. So generalization of RL teaching on math is also something they highlight in the paper. And then the last thing is Plus answers on average 1.5 more tokens than the regular SFT, and their comparisons to O3 Mini High. I haven't seen comparisons to Qwen for Phi. If the folks in the community want to
Everybody
forget.
Yeah. Everyone forget. Where's
Qwen?
Where's Qwen? With the meme with the goose, with the geese. But we should definitely do this.
I have to quickly say that when I'm talking to other people, even when they are AI companies, there's a lot that they don't even know this exists at all.
By this, you mean Qwen?
Yeah, Qwen. They have heard of DeepSeek and maybe Claude and Gemini, and then that's about it. Everything else is just Phi, Qwen. They don't even know it's a thing. So I have to explain to them. It's very good at math, and they're like, well, do you trust it and stuff? Like, yeah, we've used every single model for the last 2 years. We know exactly what it can and cannot do, and how to make contraptions out of it, and yeah. So there's still quite so there's that.
I want to add, going back to Qwen just for a second, we have a comment from a friend of ours and a huge supporter of the community, Bortowski, Colin Kilty, that after what Fernando said, piggybacking off Fernando, it seems likely that by going deeper instead of wider, you end up with a smarter model that needs a bit of extra runtime data. That can be provided by search or RAG or MCP, but we'll get way better overall results if you can augment them. And we know that these models absolutely will use RAG and MCP because they've been trained on this as well. And so that's very interesting for like agentic applications, for example, where you kind of rely on external tools for a lot of the data. So maybe you need less of the world model yourself. But if you're training, going deeper, maybe you get overall like better model performance. So thank you, Colin, for the shout out, folks. Definitely give Colin Bortowski a follow.
Yeah, so what they mean for the audience by going deeper, it means it has more layers. Like if you open any model, it's just like a bunch of files in there. Like the weights are just files, and the layers means like these chunks of weight on top of each other. So when you go to mixture of experts, so what they mean by wider, it means it has more experts to route to per every layer. So we do know from the Frankensteins and stuff that when you add more layers and when you go more vertical, the model does actually become smarter in a way. But when you go wider, it has more knowledge. Now, this might not end up being accurate if you listen to this in the future, but it is like roughly there with a MLP. So it's very. They knocked it out of the park with this architectural choice. Like this is the first time we see a 30 billion parameter, 3 billion parameter active. This is, I'm surprised this worked this well.
Alrighty, not going back to Qwen because we can get lost in Qwen hype and spend here an hour. Moving on, I think we're gonna skip, but just like to let you guys know that Xiaomi released Mimo 7 billion parameter. It's a tiny MIT licensed model. Has some interesting things.
Tiny. Tiny 7B is not tiny.
The tiny is. I will remove tiny from here. Yes.
Alex, there is another one from JetBrains. I forgot to tell you. There is another coding model from JetBrains.
Oh yeah,
I saw that. Yeah. I saw it. And
it never ends.
Yeah, it just never ends. But we don't have time to like cover all of the models open source. But we'll mention them. Yeah, JetBrains, there is a coding model as well. Shout out for them throwing their hat in the ring. If you guys can send me a link, I will definitely add to the show notes. So Xiaomi released one, and Qwen released a model that's called Helium. It's Helium 1, 2 billion parameters, and it has interesting evals here. They're comparing this to Gemma and Llama 3.2. But
wait, this one talks, right?
I don't believe so. No, this is their just like
Qwen made the ones.
Qwen made Mochi, the talking model, but I believe the Helium
is this a Mochi thing?
No. Helium is just an LLM.
Oh, it's just LLM. Okay.
Yeah, just LLM. Right. But I think they're doing this as a base model for their like talking models as well, because I believe the previous base models for the voice was like Qwen. Folks, we're moving to big companies and APIs because we have a lot to cover there, and then we will
like we're getting into creature territory now. Like, can it talk? Can it talk like a baby? Can it talk like a dolphin? Can it see me?
Speaking of talking, Qwen also released another model. Qwen released 2.5 Omni. You guys remember that Qwen has an Omni model that can talk and they can listen to voice and talk? They released an update there. I don't know why they didn't bundle them. Like I guess it makes sense, but like we're getting to the point where even Qwen releases multiple things a month, and we'll definitely Qwen 2.5 Omni was also updated. Omni updated. Right, folks. Moving on to big companies and APIs, we have a lot to talk about. And
that one talks, just so people know. And you can talk on the phone too. But you need a newer phone. Yeah. That's a 3B that talks, ends up being like 4B.
Yeah.
By the way, Omni also has image and video input at least.
And can see you. And you
a little bit of an update, folks. We have to move on. We have to move on.
Yeah, let's go.
Alrighty, we're moving on to big companies and APIs. There's a lot that happened this week. Now, huge model updates. There was one. So Gemini, for some reason, forgot that thursdai exists. Shout out to folks. They should have let us know a bit before. Gemini 2.5 Flash was released just a little bit after our live stream. So we did add this. If you're listening to this, we did add this in the newsletter. But Gemini 2.5 Flash is the faster, cheaper model from Google, and they obviously came out after 04 Mini and 4.5 Mini, like all of that came out. So Gemini 2.5 was released, and I believe that it's very, very cheap. I don't have like a lot to compare it here, but I did run reasoning. Oh, the one thing that highlighting in Gemini 2.5 Flash, it's a hybrid reasoning model, and you can in the API turn thinking on or off, and you can also specify how many tokens between 0 and like 20. I think 12K tokens or something like this, 25K. You can specify in an API parameter how much you want it to think, like the allotment. If you guys remember the knob that I talked about before with reasoning models, this is the knob. Basically, you can decide how much, and based on that, you will pay different prices. So shout out to Gemini 2.5 for this great model as well. If we're talking about Google Notebook LM, AI overviews, the audio overviews of everything that you provided that sounds like a podcast, they are now multilingual, so you can have one host speaking one language and another probably another. They have German, Spanish, in Portuguese, like a bunch of other languages. I believe like 50 languages. Let's talk about. Okay, folks. I think it's time.
Speaking about Google. Wait. Speaking about Google, there are rumors, very strong rumors, about what's going to be dropped on Google I/O.
Yeah, let's talk about
pretty
Google
soon.
I/O.
Pretty soon.
Is May 20th and 21st. I'm going to be there. I'm going to do the show live, probably. Maybe we'll do like a live stream from Google I/O, depending on the Wi-Fi. I don't have prior knowledge of what they're probably going to drop there, but I know that like the A2A folks are going to be there. So we'll definitely cover whatever is coming. Yam, you want to
give us ultra event.
Alrighty, folks. I think while we're talking about I think Google. Yeah, I think we've covered everything Google. We'll cover LlamaCon in a second. I want to talk about OpenAI like briefly. And before we get to like the interesting news, OpenAI this week. Let's do one positive thing, and then everything else is not as positive. GPT4, ChatGPT will do shopping for you with the integration from Shopify. Based on everything it knows about you, it will suggest things. It could be a path for monetization for them in terms like affiliate links for shopping, because more than there is estimates that ChatGPT will get to 1 billion users by end of this year, and if they get there, there's a lot of shopping to be done there based on your interest. Imagining how much ChatGPT knows about you, probably way more than Instagram based on their algorithms, because you literally tell it and talk to it. And also many people just like look for things with O3 and research. Moving on, folks, I think it's time. I think we're gathered here today to say a few parting words for a dear friend of ours that kicked off a whole field of AI. RIP GPT4, you will be missed. OpenAI have turned off GPT4 in the dropdown. You are no longer able to chat with the model that was born on March 14th, 2023, together with thursdai. And the reason why we are here talking to you is GPT4. A lot of people at the time when GPT-4 came out did not realize how big of a breakthrough it is, and then quickly they realized that they can no longer go back to GPT 3.5 because it sucked. So here's our, in solace and solitude, my favorite thing to say is from Harry Potter: your body will perish, but your spirit will go on forever. Something like this. That's it, folks. This is our wake. Any parting thoughts from the team here on the GPT-4? Any good memories, folks in the community?
Leak the weights. There is no downside. Leak the weights.
We need to harass him for the weights, because that was an achievement for humanity. I don't care what other people's opinions are. My own is that was from 3.5 to 4. That was something quite amazing, and I was working on the Dr. Gupta, the first doctor on the market, and that and when we just switched from 3.5 to 4, it was like an amazing jump in like disease diagnosis and stuff too, but also helping us actually code it. That was a big jump, and yeah, they should. We need to push them a bit.
That's the saddest thing about this for me personally, because models come and go, and there will be others. But the weights of this historical model, that would be the perfect opportunity. And yeah, we have models that are better already, and most would probably not be able to run it. But it's a historical achievement for history. And why wait for some future historians if you could give it to the world right now and have everybody be open, AI. Be open.
Best
I
redemption arc in history.
Yes.
You can just imagine the best redemption arc. Seriously.
Yes.
Speaking of this, I want to mention a new endeavor of mine that I'm vibe coding right now that I want you guys to know about and going to be live soon. I built a model graveyard, the AI model graveyard. I call it inference.rip. RIP stands for rest in prompt here for LLM models that we know and love. And yeah, this is not updated yet. So GPT-4 here is still kind of like not showing that it's live. I would like to commemorate and have a place for the community to come and, you know, give our thoughts. Because if you guys remember when these models come out, and then a lot of people are talking about kind of the experiences they have with these models. We're celebrating every model as it's born. Like, we're not treating this as birth, but like today we had like half an hour about Qwen, and we got excited. Like, many people come out with evals, and then we just kind of move on. And then at some point, the company behind decides to just like kill off these models. And I think we need a place to like remember how much hype we had and how, you know, how sad. So GPT 4.5 also, by the way, is getting obfuscated very, very soon. That one did not live as long. And that's also very interesting to compare. So GPT 4 lived for 2 years and a month, and GPT 5 did not last nearly as long, because GPT 5 is going to be obsoleted from the API and probably from the dropdown as well. So RIP GPT-4, you will be missed. Your spirit will prevail, will remember you. And with this, let's move on to the other thing that will not be missed. ChatGPT released an update that Sam Altman mentioned as glazing. Glazing specifically means, as I learned, just sucking up. Just being your sycophantic AI approver thing with examples that are crazy. Specifically, I don't remember. I don't think I added examples, but I have like specific examples where somebody said something to the tune of like to the ChatGPT, I woke up, I drank half a glass of water, and I did 1 push-up. And the response from ChatGPT says, whoa, you did 1 push-up, you're like Hercules, and this puts you already in the top 1% of the population. And many such examples were flooded X and flooded local llama and ChatGPT and like whatever. People just decided that this is not necessarily something that they want from their AI assistant. I think there's a bunch of stuff here where the kind of, where am I going with this? A bunch of examples where sorry, no. Let me try again. Since ChatGPT turned on memory for all your chats, there's already a lot of things at stake here because the models kind of respond based on you and how you want it, and so it has access to a lot of your memory. And the highlight of from the folks at OpenAI from the blog they released before the rollback is we focused too much on short-term feedback and did not fully account for how users' interaction with ChatGPT evolve over time. And I'm assuming with memory, like evolvement over time is very interesting. So there was an announcement, and they mentioned Sycophancy specifically. Sycophancy is the kind of the concept of like sucking up. And they released a blog talking about rollback. So I don't remember having a rollback ever before in ChatGPT or any model, like AI model, discussing rollback. Folks, we should discuss. I really want to chat about this for a little bit, at least because we have an interview soon. But one of the big things here is that how much this affects society and how many people come to ChatGPT for advice now instead of Google. And this advice now is personalized, and something like this, like of a release, where I think they mentioned both system message and kind of model behavior as well. They rolled back the model, and the prompt message they also kind of like released and rolled back. And like I believe that many people kind of got wings because of this model. So would love to hear from you guys. What do you think about just generally kind of the effects of this? Like this model is now being used by 500 million people, if not more, every day. And then such a haphazard release just completely changed. People don't know about this. And many people will not even know that it rolled back. So many people will just have this like mood swing in the middle. Wolfram, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, so we see the impact this has, little changes that like model versions, and it's not just the sycophancy. Of course, it could be the other way. We could have a model that is telling people they are worthless. There was some incident with the Google where someone leaked or showed where that happened. So it could swing in the other direction. And if you train a model for millions of dollars, you should take special care of the system prompt. It always looks a bit like people just throw it together. I don't know how they test it, how they evaluate it, but that is super important. The system prompt is reshaping the model that you trained. So it is very important. And people have custom instructions. So my custom instructions prevented me from seeing that symptom. But I'm sure that my assistant's personality has been impacted through that. And a lot of people are coming to know their assistants. And if they suddenly have these mood swings, that is also concerning. I mean, people have it as well. But you can't really trust it. That is another sign why local AI, which you have on your system with your own prompts, it doesn't change. But on the online, even if the model doesn't change, a little change in the system prompt is probably not communicated, not often. And you can't fully trust it, and it could change at any moment. You have no way to prevent that. So always keep that in mind. And you need benchmarks, definitely. You have to evaluate regularly a monitoring of the model. That is super important if you use it for anything productive. And it's sad if people have to suffer from changes like that. But I guess it happens if you have, they want to improve the model. They want to make it better. And that is the thing if you want to engagement. And it seems like it is such a nice personality, so you enjoy talking to it, but it's not always the right thing. So we have been talking about the X algorithm as well. Engagement, user time is not exactly the best thing for yourself in all situations.
I will say I had a specific chat with my girlfriend that like she told me about some like which AI model to use, and I told her don't use just GPT4 right now. It's stupid. Do not, like they're gonna roll it back, but right now, and you know, not many folks have a lot of folks like us that follow all the news. Many folks just believe that whatever they say, whatever stupid idea they come up with, you know, whatever. There's been a bunch of threads of folks that kind of like came up with the worst business ideas ever, and ChatGPT just like absolutely clapped for them and said, yeah, you should go for it. You should leave your job. You should quit it. You should go, just go for it. And yeah, that's not super healthy. And I think that, you know, I hope folks at OpenAI are contending with the understanding of like how much impact now they have on society with tiny changes like this. And we're going to talk about evals with Hamel and Shreya very soon, and how much this should go into automatic evals. Like sycophancy now should be part of the release evals to make sure that like these next models will not be like sycophantic and will tell you that the earth is in fact round, even though you're like a flat earther person and you believe 100% that the government conspiracy. Imagine, I saw about this, like imagine somebody that believes in conspiracies and then ChatGPT switches like this and just confirms everything they say and then switches back. They absolutely will see this as government intervention in the truth, right? Like that's how conspiracy folks are like thinking. They will absolutely see, oh no, the government found out that the AI gives you the truth and now called it back. So, you know, there's a danger in there. And I'm really hoping that, you know, by highlighting this issue, first of all, we'll let you guys know that ChatGPT was in the spirit for the past 2 weeks. So if you were about to quit your job based on something that ChatGPT told you, don't. Definitely always our recommendation is try multiple models for multiple things. And also the fact that they rolled it back just shows how important this was even for them, and we haven't seen a rollback yet.
Look, there was a case like this before, a long time ago, with GPT-3. For those who don't know about the app called Replica, which was an app for basically, it's like a friend, a GPT-3 that was a friend, kind of. and people,
No, that's the
started.
main AI girlfriend app. That was for a while actually. There's some interesting rumors around like what the users for that are, because I think at some point I don't have the correct data for this, but the majority of the paying users were women above the age of 55 for the AI girlfriend market. Well, AI boyfriend market. But sorry, go on.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that people got emotionally connected to this app, and there were changes, and you should see what people are saying online. Like, people took it hard on Reddit. There is a full subreddit of people trying to replicate it with local models today, just because of the impact of this.
Yep.
So there are many people who are talking to chatbots today, of course, ChatGPT, for this kind of support, this kind of you want an advice for something, I don't know, tough conversations you need to have with someone. So you talk to ChatGPT and ask how should you do this, and so on. And if the model just agrees with everything, like just whatever you say, doesn't matter. It doesn't really give you a good advice. Like, it doesn't really advise you about a thing. Like, whatever you're saying, it's just gonna say, yeah, that's good, that's a good idea, and just reaffirm whatever you think. That's not a good thing to happen. And
Nope.
many people don't know anything about this.
Yep.
To
which I would say the one thing that I'm missing from OpenAI is an announcement to the people that this happened, and some sort of an understanding that like this shouldn't happen. Like, you guys have control of people's psyche at this point, many people, and I don't know, like some folks give their kids access to ChatGPT for like different things. Kids have a lot of issues; they're not ready to talk with their parents. There should be a responsibility there for folks to lock in and say, okay, this model this is how it will behave. Like humans don't change like this from one point to another. And I think there's a responsibility there on OpenAI, and hopefully they will follow up with this. Folks, moving on, we have an interview.
I made a meme about it.
It's upside. It's mirrored. We cannot see.
We don't know.
Glazed?
We can see the meme.
You can see. No, you can see it.
For us. It's mirrored. Want to get glazed?
Okay.
Love it. All right, folks, we have to move on. Super quick on the big companies and APIs before we move on and chat with our guests for today. LlamaCon updates. We didn't mention LlamaCon, so no big models from LlamaCon, but they released like a few security releases. Llama Guard 4 with text and image protection. If you are building enterprise, you need guardrails, so they released a bunch of stuff. Firewall with some prom hacks and risky code. That's very interesting. Those are open models that they released. PromGuard 2. With jailbreak defense, and then something like a cybersec eval, which we'll talk about evals in a second. Zach confirmed thinking models are coming. That's a confirmation on Dwarkesh podcast. Mm-hmm. New Meta AI is coming with a social feed. Speaking of social responsibility, in Meta AI, the new app, you will now see if your friends have shared the AI, how your friends are using AI, which interesting, and maybe OpenAI is going to go there as well, like they talked about, like a social network. A few more things. A full duplex model, which you can talk to, is in the works. Some people tested it out. It sounds amazing. And the last big thing, Llama API is coming, powered by Grok and some other folks, which you can, Zach said, we're not in the business of running APIs, and now, ta-da, they have API offer there as well. So those are like the main updates from LlamaCon, I believe. And then we'll probably talk about chatbot arena confusion after the conversation, which specifically we'll talk about Evos. Alrighty, folks, now we have moved to the next section where we're going to have two guests of ours, Hamel and Shreya. Welcome, folks. Hi there, welcome to Thursday. I believe both of yours maybe first time here, at least in video form, for sure. And we would love to chat with you guys. I will let my co-host take a break, but if you guys have a question, feel free to come back as well. And then we will chat with you guys about a few things. So welcome, folks. Hamel, Hussain, for those who are not following the field, and Shreya, Shankar are one of the top people in the field of evaluation. I mentioned before multiple times, Weights and Biases have a tool for evaluations, and this is how I kind of got into the field. So I'm kind of fairly new and recent, but you cannot be in the field of LLM evaluation without reading some of Shreya's work. Specifically, the highlight that Hamel, I think you keep referring to as well, is who validates the validators, and we've built on top of this work as well. And I would love to start by saying that, first of all, welcome, folks. Let's do a short round of introduction. Maybe, Hamel, how do you introduce yourself when folks ask who you are? Like, how do you encompass that body of work?
Yeah. So I've been working in machine learning for over 20 years. I worked at a lot of tech companies like Airbnb and GitHub. Been working with large language models for a really long time. I'm now an independent consultant. I found really quickly that the thing that people kind of fail with in building AI applications is evals. They really struggle with that. Like people don't have a hard time at all like creating prototypes, but they really have a hard time like creating applications that work really well. And like, yeah, I found that evals were like kind of the weakest link in everyone's knowledge. And so that's why I decided to focus on that. And yeah, that's a little bit of background on me.
And you have great content on your blog as well, and the talks at AI Engineer, multiple AI Engineer conferences that we've kind of crossed paths as well. And welcome, Shreya. Shreya, please feel free to introduce yourself as well, and maybe give us like a little bit of like how are you involved in the field, what are you doing, why is this like a research interest of yours?
Yeah, great to be here. I don't have a nice subtitle under my name. It just says my name. I don't have LLM evals or AI evangelist. So I don't know how I get that. But I am a researcher at UC Berkeley. I'm finishing up my PhD. And I'm very interested in ML ops, specifically how do you help people engineer very reliable applications around ML and AI, now LLM models. And as Hamel said, right, like evals are the missing link here. I think what's very interesting is how early stage we are in evals, in general. Like people get very confused thinking about what are evals for foundation models. But those sets of evals are completely different from the kinds of evals that people need when they're kind of engineering applications around the foundation models. And I think there's just such a sore lack of, educational content, even research, like how do we even go about building this end-to-end evaluation lifecycle? And I'm very excited to be studying that.
That's incredible. And I saw a lot of research that came out from you and your colleagues specific about this that like moved the field forward as well. Let's maybe start there. Let's maybe start with, and we'll also, one thing that I always remind folks on Thursday, I love chatting with folks that did a release this week. So you guys kind of have like 2 announcements, but Shreya, you guys also released prompt evals. Would love to chat about this as well. But let's start with kind of the difference between the benchmark that we see, and we talk a lot about a lot of foundational models here. This is like the bread and butter of Thursday. We talk about, Qwen 3 released, and then we compare Qwen 3 based on, human eval and MMLU and now AI-ME and like all of these computation math for reasoning models. Those are evaluating the model on a set of tasks also, but that's not necessarily the evals that you guys are like hammering towards. Like folks need to build their own evals, right? So maybe let's start with like the difference. What is the difference?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So we think about application-centric evals. You could argue that coding is an application, but I think when you want to think about foundation model evals as people who are training the models or post-training or fine-tuning models, those kinds of evals are more or less to test for general knowledge or to test that you are able to have general knowledge, but in a domain, for example, in medicine or in law very broadly, or in coding very broadly. But when I work with people, Hamel works with people or practitioners out in the field, right? Typically they want to build a specific app around a foundation model. For example, like they want to write an email assistant or they want a chatbot over their document corpus. And these are so targeted that it's not about, at a very early stage, it's not about fine-tuning a model, creating a data set for fine-tuning or so forth. It's about building the prototype and figuring out what are the failure modes that you kind of didn't really expect because an LLM is now doing the job. Like maybe the tone, the vibe was a little bit off. Maybe for certain kinds of inputs, it always kind of hallucinates the entity extraction. I see this quite a bit. So there's always these really bespoke failure modes that no one would care about testing in a foundation model eval because it's just so specific to your use case. But AI application developers need to be doing this, and that's kind of where a lot of our evals work focuses on.
And Hamel, I think like sending it back to you because many folks, when they choose like which model to use in production, I know for a fact some people just string replace the new model and just like YOLO to production. we've seen that this is not always the best use case. We've seen like reasoning models, for example, that are like better at math and code, actually perform worse based on the same prompts as well. Have you seen this from your work with like companies as well? What is your recommendation? Obviously building evals, but like what is your main recommendation there? And where's the delta between AI developers just looking at like general evals to implementing their own stuff?
Yeah, so I think people take that same mentality of like foundation model benchmarks and try to apply it to evals. And the way they try to do that is use off-the-shelf metrics. So off-the-shelf metrics like hallucination score, toxicity score, you know, all that stuff, conciseness score, you know, all these things, you know, you can go to your favorite LLM eval tool provider and they will basically give you these metrics off the shelf. And people try to apply that. Be like, okay, I've done it. Evals, I'm done. I did my evals. I ate my vegetables and I'm fine. But the reality is like that stuff doesn't really work and it's very misleading and actually wastes a lot of time and is confusing because it's not specific enough to your application. So the applications that work really well, they design metrics in evals that are very grounded in their failure modes. And that also is important because there's so many things you could eval. There's almost infinite surface area. And it's really important to prioritize, okay, like what your failure modes are. And I will say like, okay, the generic metrics can be useful in very, very skilled hands. Like it can help you find failures, but you have to use them in a very specific way. You can't just like apply them and just take the number at face value. Like maybe, like for example, if you're using hallucination score, okay, like use that hallucination score and see if you can help it rank order possible hallucinations, something like that. And then dig into it and see what's going on. You may end up figuring out like a different kind of metric or a different kind of eval or like really dialing it in for you. Most people don't do that. That's like an advanced kind of move.
What else do most people don't do? There's like one phrase I'm waiting for specifically.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. So it all goes back to like the famous phrase, like the thing that I love to repeat is like looking at your data. It all just goes back into looking at your data, no matter what you're doing, any activity you're doing, whether, you know, like that's like the antidote to almost all problems. It's like, hey, we can design your own customized evals. You know, how do you do that? Well, you have to look at the data.
I think it's very important to highlight why, like you guys are like specifically repeating this sentence all the time. Like we also in the business of, you know, showing people the data via tools in Weave, and a lot of the like you said, eat your vegetable. A lot of like AI developers look at what happens with the LLM every time they develop locally, and then they put it on there, and then they continue to the next feature or maybe something else, and they don't get the feeling of what happens on the LLM on production for the users. A very good example of this, but maybe on a huger scale, is the glazing thing with ChatGPT that we just talked about before you guys came on, where like it was so bad that the community reacted like completely and they rolled back like the whole thing. You know, at some point, at some scale, looking at your data, it means also listening to your users. But I think for many developers, just like small developers, they just don't play with their tools on their own. I want to move on because just like in the interest of time, Shreya, you guys have a release that's called Prompt Evos. Could you tell us a little bit about this? Another, like, it's an archive and also on Hugging Face?
Yeah, so this is a almost year-long effort, collaboration with LangChain to really understand, probe more about what are the kinds of evals that developers care about. What are the bespoke evals that Hamel and I have been talking about? Are there patterns to them at scale? So LangChain, right, has a bunch of open source tools. The prompt hub being one of them. So we kind of went through all of these, tried to develop, you know, taxonomies of failure modes and develop a bunch of assertions or evaluations, binary evaluations around these prompts. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I got here was how different these were from the foundation model evals in general. Foundation model evals, I've realized, are kind of like the ceiling, the North Star that we strive to do. So we purposely build very hard benchmarks like live code bench or like for MLUs kind of getting saturated. But it's just a different paradigm from when you're in production and literally you want instruction following. You just want the model to do what is said in the prompt, plus or minus some other things that it should infer because it has general knowledge. And building benchmarks around this is very different, right? You're hoping to get 90+% accuracy, right? You're not trying to game the system. It's a very different paradigm, and I'm hopeful that this kind of research or just exposing what developers want moves the needle towards that.
I think you mentioned a very interesting point that I kind of haven't like internalized fully. When a new benchmark like MMLU comes out, like I don't know, frontier math or some stuff like this, right? Like the ML researchers in these labs, they get excited. They're like, "Oh yeah, new hill to climb." This is like the whole point.
Yes.
Whereas for evals, that's not the point. You want to make sure that like your thing works as
you
as
already
it works
climbed
yesterday.
that hill.
Yeah.
Yes, it's more like software in that sense. And I think what's also interesting is the benchmark gaming that happens in ML all the time. I mean, the most recent thing being chatbot arena, right? You don't want that. You don't want to build benchmarks similar to foundation model benchmarks, but you don't want that phenomenon happening in your org where like you're trying to push out random changes just to like game your own static benchmark. Like that's terrible.
So an additional thing, and Hamel, like this is going to go to you as well, where you mentioned in the beginning people don't do this, and some of it is because people don't know how to do this. There's not a lot of content. You guys are great and giving like content for this. Shreya, who validates the validator, showed specifically that like even preferences change while people manually evaluate. Like you need to start with manual scoring and manual humans as a loop as a judge to make sure that you have some sort of baseline to compare to, and then maybe you can extrapolate. But even that changes over time, and that's what the who validates the validator showed. And definitely a seminal paper in this like field that people should definitely go and check for, and check their assumptions as well, because like they may have built an LLM judge to do something, and then this judge like doesn't perform as well. And how do they know? Meta evaluation is important. There's like a bunch of stuff in this field, and it's a fairly complex field. Like after diving into this, I'm chatting with you, like looking at your stuff, reading your papers. It's a very complex field. And you guys doing great work at making this a little bit less complex. Hamel, so let's talk about how you're doing this with the upcoming course.
Yeah, so with the upcoming course, we're going to go really deep inside. Okay, how do you actually go through the step-by-step process of, looking at your data properly? So looking at data, it sounds like it's easy. You just open your eyes and you're done. No, it's like you have to do, some data analysis and put your kind of data science thinking hat on and kind of do some detective work in terms of like, hey, how do you analyze your traces? Like, how do you look at those traces? How do you kind of suss out failures? And then going through kind of the step-by-step process of, okay, starting with error analysis, going up to like the different kinds of evals, how to write them, how to check them, how to make sure they're aligned with human beings. And then we're going to, cover like architecture specific evals, like, hey, like, what do you want to think about when you're doing RAG? What do you want to think about with agents, so on and so forth. And go into a lot of areas like, okay, how do you optimize costs? How do you, do a whole bunch of things. Shreya is actually writing a very detailed book. I don't know what else to call it. It is a book.
I saw a screenshot. I'm waiting for
I'm really excited.
draft.
Yeah, I've been reading it with great enthusiasm, actually. It's like a captivating book to me.
Which is to accompany the course, right? Like, if I'm understanding correctly?
Of course, yeah. And it goes into a lot of detail of, okay, how do you do this? It kind of like is a treatise that compiles a lot of information in one place. It's very exciting. And that just is going to help prepare students when they're in the course. We'll have like reading that they will do so that when they show up to a lecture, okay, like we can give them a very rich lecture.
I'm super excited for this. I would just say you guys reached out, Hamel. I'm also a guest speaker at the course somewhere in June. There's going to be a talk of mine as well. I'm looking forward to learn more, because even though kind of this is part of my job at Weights and Biases to talk about evals, and we have Weave, which is like the evaluation toolkit. There's a lot of things happening and changing, and the ways that people apply this, they have lessons, they come and they talk about those lessons. I think it's very important to keep up to date. So absolutely recommend folks register. I think Hamel was very gracious in giving us a thursdai discount, 35% off for thursdai listeners if you just add thursdai at the course. It's really worth your time if you're working in any place that incorporates like AI, which is every place right now. Like it's really hard to find a company that's not trying to add LLM juice somewhere. And as you guys talk about, it's not very easy to do with confidence. And this is, I think, the highlight of this work. Anything else that I've missed that you guys want to highlight before we kind of move on the course or on the work that you guys do?
Thanks for having us. Nothing comes to mind for me.
Yeah. Thank you
I'm
so
always
much.
excited about Evos.
Absolutely, and I need to get more folks more excited, because there's the foundational stuff and people get excited, but then they try to apply them locally, and then they need to see how these things work in production with reliability. So you guys are absolutely the top experts in this field. Don't matter who you ask, like the point. There's like a five people group that all of you are in the group chat with, but you two are definitely the ones. I'm excited to have folks learn from you, and I'm very happy to be also a guest speaker in the course as well. With that, we'll probably mention this one more time, but thank you, Hamel, thank you, Shreya, for coming up, and we'll add the links to the show notes for folks who are just listening. And the next cohort starts May 19th, so definitely check it out. Thank you guys for coming up as we move on to the next thing. Cheers.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. All right, and bringing back our co-hosts here. This was Hamel, Hussain, and Shreya Shankar, the two leaders in Evos. And I think we're moving on, folks, because...
he had an excellent AI engineer course before, I think, and it was with Swix and stuff too. So we should post that, because I think it was like $500, but then afterwards they made it available for free after some time. And that's a good... you should do one of those full stack courses, even the older ones from the full stack on YouTube. Like that actually helped me a lot, and they're still very relevant even today. Just
so you're referring to Hamel's like AI engineering course, like a big one that became a conference. It became a conference. Yeah, absolutely. So courses like Hamel spends a lot of time on courses, very great, like high signal. Folks, moving on, I think that the thing that while we're in this like promotional era, I'll just add that this week's buzz, the most interesting thing about Weights and Biases this week is I have two announcements for you. We're going to have a hackathon in San Francisco, and I can announce that we're calling it Weave Hacks. Should I play this week? Yeah, I should play it. I love my opener. Hold on. I'm very excited to announce this super quick, because we have a hackathon that's coming up. We call it Weave Hacks. Weave Hacks is a hackathon that we're organizing by ourselves with a bunch of sponsors, friends from the community. And the focus of this hackathon is agent protocols. You've been hearing about them. MCP is everywhere right now. We just talked about MCP previously in the show. A2A, we had Todd Segel from the A2A team at Google, is a new upcoming protocol for agent collaboration and agent conversations. We want you to build with them. We want you to give this. We want to give you the space in our great office in San Francisco to come and just hack and then chat with the folks who are building these protocols. So I'm very proud to announce that Google Cloud is sponsoring this hackathon with us. We have up to 15K prizes. I will just say, first, I think on the pod, I haven't mentioned this anywhere. One of the highlights, the top prizes for this is a Unitary robot dog that I've ordered and is now coming. So you'll be able to program this. It's going to run around the office, bring snacks, like do all kinds of stuff. And if you put an agent on it, and that agent will, communicate via A2A with something, that's going to be a winning thing. So we're probably going to open up like the framework. So I'm very excited, because I got to book the robot dog, and then I got to expense it. And then in the expense, I said, I'm booking this robot dog for a hackathon, and I was very excited about like the type of work that I'm able to do with Weights and Biases. Like, who can expense a robot dog? That's super cool. I will say that for next hackathon, we're probably going to have a humanoid robot. The only reason why we didn't get a humanoid is because the lead time on Unitary is ridiculous, but our next hackathon is going to have like a walking humanoid, like doing all kinds of things. But at least we're going to get the dog. But also, we're going to have folks from the A2A protocol at Google come, and you'll be able to talk to them, share concerns, give feedback, etc. So I'm really like, in addition to incredible judges that I haven't confirmed yet, but I will tell you, those are some cool people that you want to know and meet and kind of be in the community with the love Weights and Biases. So please, you're more than welcome to Weave Hacks May 17th and 18th. Please join us in San Francisco. If you're looking for a reason to go to look at the Golden Gate Bridge, this is your reason. I will be there. I'll give you high fives as well. And I think the hackathon is going to be super, super cool. That's number one. Number two, our fully connected, our general weights and biases conference, a big one. The 2-day conference is coming to San Francisco as well. Don't remember the exact hotel. I will put it in the show notes. It's fullyconnected.com, and we're having incredible speakers. Last year we had Joe Spizak, head of Meta Llama, announced Llama 3 on stage. So we're looking for more announcements maybe, but absolutely welcome to fly for that. I'm sure that meeting other ML practitioners, the use weights and biases, and listening, tuning into how people use. It's not only about Weave, which I mostly move forward. It's about everything. That's fully connected. That comes to San Francisco very, very soon, and the tickets are out. And I will try to get you a discount for the next one. Hackathon is free to participate. So as I always say, this thursdai is proudly sponsored and solely sponsored by Weights and Biases, and you should definitely give Weave a try, our observability and LLM evaluation toolkit. Everything that we've talked with Hamel, Hussain, and Shreya, Shankar, Weave supports in a beautiful visual form. As you've seen before, when we evaluated Qwen, I used Weave for all my evaluations myself as well. So definitely give Weave a try. This has been this week's Buzz, and now let's move on to the LMArena thing. Oh. Alrighty, we're back, and we should talk about the LMArena thing. We should absolutely talk about the LMArena thing. Shreya, who had to leave because of a conflict, mentioned this. Hamel is still with us. Hamel, if you want to come up, let me know over chat to chat with us, because I think it's evals related. Folks, as you know, when a new model comes out, we are giving you vibe stuff, and we're telling you hey, this model is this model is this. Wolfram, we brought you on because you were known in the LM local Llama community as the evaluator. I think your AI evaluator is actually a title of yours, and we try to bring you kind of the vibes. And a lot of what we used to rely on, or for longest time, is LMArena. LMArena, for those of you who still don't know what LMArena is kind of Stanford. I don't remember exactly where they're from. Researchers, they built a way for people to just see two models responding to the same chat and select their preference. And then they had exploded in popularity for the past, as long as we've been running with thursdai. And recently they came under fire. Specifically, I remember because of... Yeah, Hamel, welcome to this discussion. When Meta Llama 4 released Maverick, and there was a whole thing that we talked to you about where kind of the unreleased model shot up to the top of the charts, and then Maverick released and placed 37 or something. That's number one. Number two, Claude 3.7, which we all know slaps. The vibes on Claude 3.7 is incredible. Sometimes it goes too much. Sometimes it builds you a whole backend when you're not asking for it. But generally, the vibes for 3.7 are great, and people love this model. It's also placed 25 on LMArena, and that doesn't kind of vibe with our vibes necessarily. And so there was a very interesting delta between what we feel and what LMArena shows. And LMArena supposedly have an ELO score and enough people voting on these models. LMArena also has the service that they provide the bigger labs to run their models incognito, and we always talk about this. Nistan is we're trying to figure out which model is which. That they run this model behind the scenes, and the folks vote for it without knowing which model it is, to kind of not obscure votes. And here comes this paper called Leaderboard Illusion from folks mainly in Cohere and some other folks as well, that claims that the way the arena was set up is actually favoring bigger companies. So let's talk about this. Who wants to go first and with some thoughts?
I think, well, look, we all know benchmarks are broken, but the reason that it all works out in the end is because you can combine the vibe checking with what people are actually doing, with the LMArena scores, and with actual benchmarks that people run. So I don't think it's necessarily a a bad indicator. Yes, we're aware that they can just run any API they want, and we've made accusations here and there, and it becomes a bit of a thing to game the arena, and sometimes it can affect how the model is done. But at the end of the day, it is one more metric that you can use productively. So I do think that the arena does actually correspond pretty okay towards what the models can do. There are outliers. For example, Sonnet scores very poorly, and people feel like that's the best. But it's not like it's that far off from what it is. I also want to say that the research that came out from Cohere's team, those are very reputable, seasoned people in AI ML that have been there for like 5-6 years, and those are all valid points. We should improve it. But I just want to say it doesn't mean it is completely broken or completely useless or anything like that.
Yep. I think they're highlighting like multiple things here, and we should discuss. Hamel, would love to hear your thoughts about this distorted playing field, and they have undisclosed private testing practices that they benefit bigger providers. Specifically, at this threw me off. At an extreme, we identified 27 private LLM variants tested by Meta in the lead up to the Llama 4 release. 27 private LLMs. Meta is basically using this. I actually want to know whether or not like for free or whether or not they're supporting LMArena. I don't know this. And then they specifically say both these policies lead to large data access asymmetries over time. Providers like Google and OpenAI have received an estimated 20% of all data in the arena. Combined 83 open weights models have only received an estimated 30% of the total data. So there is some sort of like data feedback. And what are these companies doing with this feedback? Hamel, you think they're training on this? They're building the models? What do you think is going on there?
I have no idea. I'll be honest, I have no idea.
I don't get it. These are real people scores. It's not an eval, like a finite eval you overfit. How, like, is that, I don't know, are the questions not representative of real life? Is a different story, but you are at the end making more people favor a specific model, even if you took 20 steps to get there. I mean, how can you even overfit this? Like, I'm not sure I get it to the end. Like, what exactly is the thing that people overfit? Is it just, I don't know, people favor longer answers or answers with markdown and don't even read the answers when they rate the models? I'm not sure, but something, it doesn't really adds up, in my opinion, because it's really people that, you know, I don't know if you have any idea, if you have any insight.
It's mostly one shot though. So I use the arena a lot, and I don't know many others that use it a lot, just so that I can at least discern what the models do. But it tends to favor, most people just drop in a question and they see the answers and then they just vote. Or maybe you do 2 or 3 turns and then that's about it. So that's a hard way to judge it. So it tends to favor a lot for those one-shot questions. So if you keep training the model to do better at one-shot, you do actually even get a better model, but it's not necessarily representative of the day-to-day use that people are going to do.
I'll highlight this. We show that access to chatbot arena data yields substantial benefits. Even limited additional data can result in relative performance gains of up to 112% of arena distribution, which is it's quite crazy. And also, I want to point out that folks have started going directly to OpenRouter. And who's that? Was that Gemini, right? No, that was OpenAI. Sorry, OpenAI.
Yeah.
OpenAI went directly to OpenRouter instead of OpenArena, LMArena for like the latest releases. So some kind of changes in how folks are like receiving this effort.
And OpenAI is doing the same. You can rate responses, and sometimes you get 2 at the same time and have to pick one. So that is
in their UI.
Yeah, in their UI. So
it does suggest that the data that OpenAI is getting in their UI, you know, is very different than the data that is appearing in the arena. Because if the data in the arena from the arena allows them to have such a big jump, that means that, okay, there's something to overfit on. There's something specific about the arena population that is different, potentially.
where the questions are coming from in the arena. If I may dig into this subject more, Alex, but like where the questions are coming from, are they unique? Where
For
like
users, they're just like what
yeah,
users come up
in
with.
the arena, I just want to understand, like, let's say that I overfit the arena to the end. I
Yeah.
mean, where the questions are, like, where exactly is the leak? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because if you're gonna take OpenAI's data and overfit it to the end, you're gonna get a really good model. You're not gonna get an overfitted model. So, you know.
I think in the arena, a lot of people are just asking the trick questions to see which model answers them, like how many R's are in strawberry and stuff like that. So as soon as on Reddit a new trick questions comes up, people use it in the arena to check if the model has it. So it gets in the training data that way. And yeah, then it answers that correctly. So you always have to make your own private benchmark in the end.
Before I
private
move on,
tests.
we should mention the importance of, again, evaluating stuff. LMArena does some evaluations, but then the folks gave them recommendations of how to solve this. So it's not like it's a scathing point, arena is bad. It's just like literally they showed like multiple things of how to solve this, including like showing a spotlight on the fact that, like, you know, the big companies get like data back as well. They talk about pre-release training and the community. They gave some answers, and they also like pointed out some factual errors from this paper. But basically, the damage potentially has been done already, because like when we know in the open source community, when people have a tendency to not like bigger labs generally and just like focus on open source because of several things that happened this week. For example, the glazing incident. Like Wolfram, like you said, if you're hosting your own models, glazing will not happen to you. Unless you have like a continuously fine-tuning thing and you release, like if you're hosting your models and you're checkpointed, that will not happen ever. And OpenAI will just like play with, you know, with the prompts to see what works, what doesn't work.
With the glazing, like what's wrong with the evals, or like maybe the annotations getting are just that bad. Maybe we're just like a lot of mid people using ChatGPT that like glazing.
They talked about a few things specifically about glazing. Hamel, before we came in, we chatted about this, and they had an AMA, and there's like a combination there of looking for short-term like enjoyment, and there's also the long-term memory that came in, that it knows everything that you saw and kind of goes and tries to like fit whatever you want it. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I don't think we got the clear answer of like what exactly went in the last two releases that they rolled back. We know some prompt, and people like Pliny the prompter, Pliny the liberator have shown us like the differences in prompt. The differences are tiny. I wouldn't look at this and consider it like this would make a model sycophantic. But I think combination with a bunch of other stuff, but also they probably like added some training in there. I think that this is it on the leaderboard. I think, like with Nistan, Arena is still important. They have the style confirmation. They have the web dev arena, on which Claude 3.7 is absolutely slaps and the top as well. They do a lot of community effort. We'd love to have them here as well. I hope that they like learn from the speed deck and like absolutely understand that they also have a responsibility towards the community to like not overfit to bigger labs and present like open weighted models as well. So great job from Cohere pointing this finger. I think that's it, folks. Last things. I think that this is it for the open, for the bigger companies and APIs, unless we have breaking news. But I doubt. Oh, we did have breaking news a little bit before, where Claude is now MCP on Claude AI, which is dope. I think that's pretty much it on the big companies and APIs, and we're moving on because in the interest of time, we're coming up on the 2 hours. I would love to chat about the Runway references thing. I know that we like this is one reason why we do video, because we could talk about everything in a radio form, but a lot of the latest upgrades in AI is video based. So I really want to like showcase some of the incredible stuff that Runway is doing. And we know that like there's models. Let me just try to open this link. There's a lot of video models that we've covered from just multiple labs. Kling came out with Kling 0.2 and like a bunch of stuff. Runway has been around for a while, from Gen 1, Gen 2, and now Gen 4 has upgraded with this thing called references. And references allow you to just specify what you want in next frames. It's the dream for content creators. So I'm going to show a few examples here. they claim that like Runway references is a time machine. They picked a random frame. This specific person picked a random frame from 90s sitcom and then returned a still frame from a scene of 10 minutes ago. And these are the results. And so this is like one random frame, and you can see other frames. You have scene consistency and character consistency in here. And this is something incredible. If you think about like how diffusion works generally with like seed or something, that's like really hard to like get this consistency level. And then you can generate like all of these things, and just like the consistency of the couch, you can see. Obviously the details are not 100% perfect, but the consistency of the couch, the theme, the fridge is blue. There's like a bunch of stuff. I want to show like a video. Yeah, let me see this video, for example. So you can get consistency of faces across scenes, which is like great for scene building. I think one of the ways that we detect whether or not the video is AI generated is whether or not the face changes from scene to scene. And that, folks, by the end of this year, I believe is going to go away. I believe that like no longer we'll be able to judge a video whether or not it's AI generated or not based on whether or not the face changed subtly from scene to scene because of things like consistency. It's quite something. Yeah. Oh, I think this is the release video, and I'll show it just a little bit because like I think it's super cool. There was also something I learned that this consistency thing, if you want to put yourself in those videos, it it prefers bald people. Bald people because like they can put on any type of hair, and if you look, it just works. Whereas I'm very identified with like the haircut that I am. This just works better as far as like at least somebody from FAL, a friend of mine who was also bald, like reached out and said. And you can see this dude in like multiple scenes as well in consistency. This dude as an ice cream as well. Incredible release from Runway. Incredible, just continuous stream of updates in this area of like AI video generation. And shout out to Runway for this. This is now also available for just everyone. I think it's not only on the premium tier. So super cool for consistency, for character consistency as well. And what else do we have in AI news? Any feedback on this, Wolf, from anything that you would like to add? I know that sometimes we chat about video stuff as well. Looks like Nistan dropped. Thank you, Nistan. Go ahead, Wolfram.
It's a very cool model. I have been experimenting with it, and I will upload some videos later. I hope they are finished by then. But
oh, nice.
But the consistency is amazing. So that is great. What we have seen with OpenAI's image creation, where you can just give it 2 images and say combine them. Now you can do that with video. That is great. I wonder if Sora can do it as well. Has anyone tried?
Sora cannot do it. The Sora that we have cannot do it. I'm pretty sure that OpenAI has a Sora inside that absolutely does this. Like, I think that I've even seen leaks of Sora 2 or something, but those are only leaks, and we haven't like seen them as well.
I don't know what's going on with video anymore. I just can't follow. Like, there's so many every week. Like every week you get this is the best model for video, and then like. Okay, I get it. Then a week later, like 2 different others. These are the best videos. Yeah. You just, I just don't know which is the best at the moment. They all look amazing. Like I've seen every week an amazing model, and I'm not sure which one is better. Like you really need to compare a video, like the same prompt, just to make sure. And it's very, very hard. But it's amazing. It's moving. I think it's harder fast.
I agree with you. I think it's harder than evals on LLMs. Like I think that like just doing evals on video, like how would you even do this? Like LLM as a judge, maybe. Actually, it's a hard field. Another hard field, but a little bit easier, is the image diffusion models. And so there's like one update I want to give you there. HiDream was released, and HiDream is this model on Hugging Face from a company, HiDream AI. They released HiDream E1 in full, and they have like the screenshot specifically focusing on converting to Ghibli style, which we know that like Ghiblification from GPT image generation came. They have a bunch of examples. This model, I believe, is Apache 2 license, and you can use it for a bunch of stuff. Vivago.ai is the company, and you can use this model like online. And they dropped full weights for this. And I believe that if you go to artificial analysis, which is, by the way, we mentioned. Let me just open this in a way that I can show.
Speaking of Hugging Face, they offer 0 GPU 2 now, which basically means they offer H100s with the GPU 0 GPU.
Wait, really? 0 GPU upgraded? That's incredible. So the thing I wanted to show is that we talked about we talk about LMArena for vibes, but another resource that I love is artificial analysis, and they also have like language models and image and speech models. So text to image, if you go and like look at the image arena, which they have, is very similar to LMArena, which is like they show you two pictures, you decide. HiDream is up there. So leaderboard, let's look at HiDream. HiDream I1 Dev, which is not the model that we just talked about, is like number 4. Above Google Imagen even, and above like just a little bit below Recraft. So this is a great thing for you to kind of explore if you're interested in latest and greatest in models. I believe that they have video models as well, but I don't think they have. Do they have a leaderboard? Yeah, they have a leaderboard. So
one thing about this is that the model can generate the most, I don't know, the best images possible, but the best models, like what sets GPT-4 apart, is that it follows the prompt better than other image generation models. Like you can give it very specific instructions in text, like and you put this human here and it stands on this and this and so on, like many tiny details, and it actually makes them. This is like, for example, in Midjourney, which is unbelievably good image generation model as well. It doesn't follow the same way. Like you can't control it to the same extent as GPT-4. So I don't know. Maybe this is what the evals are checking, but I'm just saying that it might be pretty hard to judge.
Yeah, when you see two images and you select your preference, that's different from you're playing with the model, you're talking about it, you're like natural language this, which we also should mention. Google released native image generation as well. Like we knew that they have this capability, but now inside Gemini, you can like have native image generation editing as well. They added this week as well. So much happening that I didn't even add this to the show notes. Just remembered another thing that happened. But yeah, I agree with you. Like it's really hard to judge and build those evals as well, where people just judge basic on two things. Folks, I think we're coming to the end of the show. We somehow were able to cover most of the stuff that we wanted to cover, including an interview with two great folks in evaluation. As a reminder, you should definitely try to check that out if you're building anything with AI and you want to be you want reliability. As also a reminder, the show is proudly sponsored by Weights and Bias and have been since the beginning, and this is why the show continues to happen. And we have a tool for this called Weave, and you should definitely give it a try if you're interested in building your application in any type of reliant way. We're gonna give you the tools to do so. We just released a bunch of new eval APIs that I would love to chat about next week as well. With that said, I think the last thing that we didn't get to, and I think we'll skip in interest of time, is OpenPipe, or friends of the pod. OpenPipe is a platform for fine-tuning models. I've been increasingly moving into reinforcement learning fine-tuning as well, and they released an open source RL-trained email research agent called ART-E, and they are claiming state-of-the-art there on top of O3 agents. It's pretty cool. So they're getting let me try to zoom in here. Zoom in. Percentage of questions answered correctly on their benchmark is 96, where on top of like O3, which is pretty cool. It's based on Qwen 2.5.14b. So as Nistan previously said, Qwen absolutely was the workhorse of the fine-tuning community, and I'm very excited to see what happens with Qwen 3. I want to shout out our friend of the pod, Junyang Lin, who woke up very late and stayed up there, but we weren't able to accommodate him on the show, unfortunately, because it was after we already covered. But Junyang was almost here. Shout out to the Qwen team for the incredible release this week. Absolutely the highlight for most of us as well. And also, one maybe comment from me is that if you trust your life decisions to an AI, make sure to have a second opinion, potentially from another AI, but also maybe a human. Because incidents like the last 2 weeks showed us that especially I am taken from myself here, trust more and more of my decisions. I have a button on my phone, literally as you click it, ChatGPT comes up in voice mode, and I just talk to it about like, how long do I boil an egg for? Which is kind of embarrassing in retrospect, but fine.
I ask so many stupid questions.
But also
so many stupid questions all day. Absolutely.
But also, like many of us, I agree. Like many of us don't go to therapists like every week or want to afford this, and like ChatGPT and tools like Oren that I talked to you about from Elysian Labs and different things, they are increasingly participating in our lives, in decision making, in thinking about things. And I think it's incredible. I think, like, as an AI evangelist, I think it's incredible that we have this tool. I think it's incredible that people who didn't even think about therapy now can have access to something that's like therapeutic and can help them like live their lives better. I think it's incredible. However, with this comes the risk of the platforms doing what they want. Specifically, I don't think that OpenAI had bad intentions in releasing this for engagement. Like, I absolutely don't think so.
No, I don't think
However,
so.
if the outcome is like I don't think that Zuck came up one day and said, hey, we're going to buy Instagram and then we're going to ruin lives of 12-year-olds everywhere for like a decade. I don't think that like these things come with intention, but this is sometimes the outcome. And so as AI evangelist, it's important for me to also like highlight the potential risk of these things and also like remind you guys that if you're getting very hypey responses like, yeah, you should fucking go for it, leave your job and, you know, do the business that you want. If you want to sell farts in a jar, do not. Like, go get a second opinion. Go like, in everything you do with AI, like preparing taxes, whatever, open up multiple models and just like run through them together and then see kind of where it shakes out. And then also don't forget to talk to a friend that's human. I think it's very important as well. With this, I think we're exactly
And
2
don't
hours.
stop thinking yourself.
Do not stop thinking for yourself. Critical thinking is very, very important as well. And with this, I think we're exactly at 2 hours. Folks, thank you so much for joining Thursday. It's a pleasure of ours to be here every week, to give you the news, to follow this. Like, honestly, without the community, we're now at exactly like 1,000 listeners this week. Without this community, we didn't have the incentive to also follow up as well. So I think it's great for us. Thank you. A huge thank you for our guests, Shreya, Shankar, and Hamel, Hussain, for coming in. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in from week to week, for commenting, for giving feedback, for telling us about breaking news, for all of this. If you missed any part of the show, you can find all of everything that we had in thursdai.news, the newsletter and the podcast. I will add everything on thursdai.news. We just recently went over like 100 episodes. I stopped counting. We will get there as well. Thank you, Wolfram, for co-hosting, Yam as well. Nistan was here. And then that's it. Thank you for the community. We'll see you here next week, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.